Hi everybody, Tony Monaco. The Hammond organ. Yeah, the Hammond organ. This is a vintage A100. It's in my studio. I use it for recording. I like the A100s because the years they made the A100s were the best sounding years with this new crisp chorus vibrato section, the scanner, and that whole system changed. It sounded got a little more brighter sound. And the I like the A100 as well because it's cheaper. So if you're going to have a second organ, then an A100 is the perfect one. So I like the A100 as well because it's kind of a little smaller, fits where you need it. So the A100 was a move on Hammond's part to miniaturize the organ without changing the features, just changing the wood. So the B3s, C3s, A100s were all similar, whatever year this was built, 59, 60. All the models use the same organ, so it's the same organ. So there comes my new series, Clones for Real, where I'm putting out a new video where we're getting ready to shoot it right now, as a matter of fact, where we're going to compare a lot of modern day clones, like an XK or Mojo or VB3 or an Electro, and we're going to take those sounds with a mixer. We're going to put it out through the same speaker system. We're going to look and see, some of the ways that we can get these sounds. But for this video today, this gift to you, I just want to kind of show you how I set up my organ, how I think about this thing as the big orchestra, and how I get the sounds that I get, and how I utilize this instrument. So this is just a brief little introduction to me, and I do a lot of educational videos. So if you visit my website, b3monaco.com, and go under instructional videos, you'll see I have a lot of digital downloads and DVDs, play-alongs, all about how to play the Hammond, because it's my passion. I've been doing this my whole life, and over 43 years now as a musician, and playing the Hammond probably 38 out of those 43 years. So I really love this instrument. It really turns me on. And I know how to play the Hammond organ just because I've listened and listened and listened. So to those students that are getting ready to embark, it's not only the sounds that I'm going to give you, but it's how they're played, and that's the study of learning how to play the organ. It is a keyboard. It was the first synthesizer. It was built to take over in the pipe organ market for these smaller churches that couldn't afford pipe organs. The Hammond became a viable option. It was built to synthesize the sound of pipes. So when you pulled out drawbars, it was lengths of pipes. So the organ was built to replace the pipe organ. Was never built to be a jazz instrument, or rock instrument, or a country instrument, or something you hear in every advertisement that you listen to. You always hear the organ these days. It's in here. It's in software. You can get that sound there. You can get it with clones. So my series, Clones for Real, which is being filmed today, which should be not today, but soon, should be out in the next month or so. It's something you might want to check out so that you can make your keyboard sound as close to the vintages, and I'll help you find those sounds. So right now, let's just take a look at how I set up my organ. No matter if you have a portable, digital, new Hammond B3, or if you have just a single manual, these sounds, okay, are in there most of the time, or pretty close, or we can get there, okay, because they're all based on this machine called the Hammond A100, this particular one, which is a tone wheel model. Okay, this is the advancement of tone wheel organs. So I have bass pedals. If you don't have them, no problem. But just real briefly, since we're talking about the way I set up my organ, I keep the bass pedals at 7 on this vintage Hammond, and my lower manual settings for 8, 4, 8, with my chorus on C3 most of the time, sometimes off. What does that do? Okay, so I was just playing a C minor blues, right? The bass pedal are the lowest tones generated on the Hammond, the 16-foot, the biggest pipes, the deepest sounds. They come from the foot. So sometimes people who have pedals play bass pedal patterns. But I'm teaching you the traditional setup from the Jimmy Smith School, where my bass is coming from mostly my left hand in combination with things that I do with my left foot. Like, for instance, tapping. I might just, at 7, just be tapping staccato. Notice I take off my shoes just because I don't want to hear too much mechanical noise. I want to listen to the sound of the music. So that tapping is underneath. When you pull it out at 8, it's sometimes just a little strong. So I like to pull it under at 7. It's blended better. Now here's my comp. At 848, so what I do is I shadow my left hand with my pedals. So if I get down to the place where I want to make a change, my pedal then becomes useful in playing the actual tones. So it's not a bad idea as you're learning bass lines, which my bass and comp gives you a whole 2 DVD set on how to really build bass lines and comp. So what you do is you can shadow your left foot with your left hand. So I can go. But with the bass, it just sounds like this. Okay, so if you want to get to that point, you can get to that point. You start shadowing your left hand. So what ends up happening is when I want the foot 16 to come in, I just hold it instead of tap. Feel it? So that's what's happening. That's what I'm doing. On the right hand, I'm comping down here, okay? So I can either become like a Freddie Green player, just 3s and 7s. But my bass line is primarily my left hand, so my setting is set up for that. Okay? Then what I start to hear later on as I continue to play is an orchestra. So notice you can start putting voices like, you know, not just 3s and 7s, but notice that sometimes I make my hands wide because I want to get the 3 and 7 with these 2 fingers. Put some colors on top and spread it out since I only have one hand. So on my bass and comp video, I show you these secrets. But this is what I'm doing. I'm using 848 if I want it thinner, 808. If I want to add a little chorus to it, it makes it jump out a little bit. Listen to this bass line. No chorus. Chorus. Has more of a spit to it, so you get more of them. Sometimes I put a little reverb, so if you have the option for reverb, if you're using a modern thing, look for a spring with a long decay or a hall. Sometimes a hall is really good, because notice this Trek reverb, which is a spring reverb. It's got a long decay. So I like to mix just a little bit of this in here. Not too much. It's like a big band now. Saxes or a violin section. Use the Leslie, sometimes I can get that kind of like a string section, right? Don't be afraid to slide. That's the beauty of that's with the C3 chorus, which is beautiful, or dry. A little thinner. You can hear that big band now. So the whole root of the organ comes from this lower manual. If you don't have pedals, not a problem. A lot of modern day clones will allow you to actually change this fold back and bring in the deep tones with your left hand. So that's what I really do like about modern clones. When my original B3 had to be wired because I wanted those low 16s in my left hand, they had to actually split the manual and solder a 16-foot contact to the tone generator to each one of these notes. It took the man all day. You had to split the organ apart. Today, with just a switch in your control, you can just change your rollback, your fullback, so you can make the bass go down deep with just one hand. My feeling is if you don't really know what you're doing with this system yet, if you can eliminate things like bass pedals from, you can clean up and get everything tight. That's why I kind of like going out playing gigs with the Mojo and no bass pedals. I got a volume pedal, a Leslie speed control, 2 hands, and whatever the instrument can do. And you have to play tight. You have to get tighter, okay? So on the lower manual, C3 or not, depending. Usually, yes. 848, 808, any combination, 828. This is my left hand on the B natural preset. Leslie fast sometimes on chorus slow, okay? Or chorale they call it, or sometimes off if you have the capabilities where they stop. This I would have to unplug the motors. Okay, so that's the bottom manual, and it's the setup for everything I do, whether I have pedals or not. It's what I do with my left hand. If I'm going to get into some funk, that's with no pedals. Now, if I had the pedals, what would I do? And I'd be right underneath it. But notice my left hand is doing most of the work. So in my studies for the bass and comp, we look at that. In my concepts to improvisation and part 4, or Blues 102, which is highly suggested, I go through all the Parker changes for blues, all the substitute, kind of get into the real changes that you hear when you listen to a lot of the great organists, the different substitutes that they used. Blues 102 is really good for that. This upcoming Clones for Real, I'm going to help you get your sound on a clone that sound just like this. I'll show you how to do this, or at least get as close as possible. Remember, sometimes different is great. No 2 Hammonds sounded exactly the same, especially no 2 Hammonds hooked up to 2 separate Leslies ever sounded the same. Could be the condition of the capacitors, the preamp, all kinds of different variables that have changed over the years, how 2 different organs can sound totally different. A lot of times I bring a DI box So I could take the signal out and send it to the mixing man if they have subwoofers and a big speaker, get some extra signal called DI, which is actually coming out of this organ for the mix of this video. And I do that because I like to have a little separate control of the dry signal versus this Leslie, okay? So miking techniques, we go through that in some of the videos. In improvising, we start to move from the harmonic growth of this bottom manual. So the more growth that you have in your bass lines, your substitutions, and your harmony, which comes from comping accompaniment, that gets translated to the sounds I use up on top and dictates which direction my solo is going to go into. So when we go to theory things in Concepts Through Improvisation, or Part 4, we're just talking about some of the elements. When it comes to improvising and playing, first you have to be able to get the sound, and that's what this little video is about, is getting the sounds. But second, you have to know how to use them. How do you know how to use them? You got to do a lot of listening. So start listening to organ player records, and you'll start to hear the way we like to use these effects. When we like to use C3 chorus on, when we like to turn our Leslie on fast or the tremolo position, when we like to keep it in the chorale or slow or off. Why? How do we use those sounds effectively? Okay? So the upper manual, we go to a bunch of inverse presets here. Okay? Even in the digital ones, you can actually easily preset them, where these old ones, you have to actually rewire everything, all 9 drawbars to each one. So it's a mess, can be done. But the B natural and the B flat, they look like this, they're just inverse colors. Those are reserved for these drawbars. So just like this B natural takes care of this set, this B flat takes care of this set. This B natural takes care of this set, which notice is connected to this little thing called percussion over here. Okay? So we're going to talk about those settings. This B flat is set up for these drawbars. So if I want to get all stops out, that's all 9 drawbars playing. Pushed them all in. So the way the organ is, it's always working. See, I've got my foot off the volume pedal. I'm playing these notes. They're always playing. All I have to do is tap into it. So as I look at these 9 drawbars, I look at them as an EQ. Low, high. Standard settings are things like full organ, all drawbars out. If it's too bright, I push in a little bit on the top. Gives it more of a bassier sound. If I want it more like tremulant, I put this C3 on top. If I want to take it to heaven, I go to the Leslie on fast. Leslie's on slow, brighter. If I want it real bright, I start pushing down this side. Just like an EQ. If I want it low, start pulling out the low ones. There's the lowest that chord can go. There's the highest that chord can go. So these drawbars are more like EQs. Some common settings for this one is if I know I'm going to go into the big band sound, okay, I might set it up like this, where on B natural, on this particular song, I do want the C3, okay? I want my percussion on. I want it on soft. I like fast decay on this particular one. 3rd harmonic, so just listening to the percussion itself. An interesting thing to note is that the 3rd harmonic and the 2nd harmonic just changes keys. So notice that's a F. That makes it a C. So it just changes it up a 5. So the 3rd is like pulling this drawbar out. Okay? So what we want to do now is we pull these drawbars out. That's why I like to keep my percussion on a soft position so it gets more blend of the organ. Check it out in the normal. It's very percussive, but when I go to the soft, brings in more of the organ. In my part 1, I discuss why this does not go through the chorus vibrato section, so you'll notice the percussion is dry, but the organ is going through here. Listen to the percussion. I'll put on slow decay so you don't hear this, but on the organ you do. And notice with the percussion on you don't hear this, but when I turn it off you do. So I always leave this 888-0000008, so when the percussion is on, I got percussion sounds, second or third harmonic, the Mel Ryan sound, the Jimmy Smith. I like slow decay, it gives me a little more percussion time. Notice as you hold, it doesn't re-trigger. That's how the percussion works. So I explained that in a lot of depth in part 1, but for now, as long as you're holding something, once it triggers itself, it's done. Fast, it's even faster. That's it. We're here. Get a little longer time. So with these 888, I got this sound. Or groove. See that? Percussion. Two different sounds. Percussion. So just having the comp with the C3, the percussion on or off, there's my complete setting as you're seeing. The orchestra. The big band down quiet. Groove. Jimmy Smith. A little dry. I'm building Leslie on full organ. I'm gonna set it up. Little piano sound maybe. Second harmonic, no. Drawbars, this is basically not playing because the percussion is on. Maybe a lot of reverb. Some people pull this drawbar out a little bit with the C3, it gives it a different. Sometimes they take that off. See, everything is just variable, just minor setting. Check out b3monaco.com. I've got a whole variety of instructional DVDs that show you how to do these kind of things. We go through harmonic journeys. We go through scales, practice exercises, chord changes. They're all very important. Okay, so I've shown you a whole lot of settings to use. My last setting for this video is to show you how to squabble sound, to get this sound we call squabbling. There are very many variations of sounds. I suggest you listen to different organists, and you'll find sounds that you'll want to go, and now you know how to go get them. Just start slowly manipulating these drawbars. You know how to use the percussion now. You know about this chorus. You know a little bit about reverb and Leslie. You know we usually use the bottom for chords and that same setting, very minor variations. So really it's about the upper manual. Now, Jimmy Smith dug Errol Garner, so he wanted to get this kind of Errol Garner sound. He developed squabbling. So he pulled out the first drawbar, okay, and he pulled out the last 4. That's the easiest way to remember. He turned the chorus on C3, okay, and he put the Leslie on fast. Got a little reverb, so it comes out of the Leslie, okay. So from the bottom, listen to the orchestra. But yet from here, start to get that sound. So to close out this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this little squabble song that I wrote called It's Been So Nice to Be With You. It's on Celebration. And obviously I wrote this in the same sort of like thing to give back homage to Jimmy Smith. It's the squabble style that I dig. And so I'm going to close out with this, and I'm going to use the full organ in almost all the settings the way I would use this. So it's going to start out with this squabble sound, and then we're going to break into some sort of lead sound, and then we're going to take it out with some kind of big sound, big band sound, okay? So I'm going to kind of take you through the whole journey, you know. Sometimes I like to get that wah-wah. All right, man. Have fun with these drawbar settings.